Once we have students learning the material and we have them interacting with the material, we need to know if they are getting it and if we are doing our job and if we have hit mastery. So the big question in multiple means of expression is, how are we having students demonstrate their knowledge? Are we making that universal? Are we offering alternatives and opportunities for all students to be successful and provide their knowledge to us? So according to CAST, everybody's going to differ in the way that they navigate that learning environment and the way that they express what they know. I think all of us probably could give a list of ways that we like it. I will tell you that I think I was an odd student when I was in high school. I would prefer to write an essay any day over a multiple choice test. Or I would prefer, I'm so visual, that I actually enjoyed following maps and having to write information into the map and using memory. But not everybody's like me. And so every classroom can't be planned for me. So we want to look at the 3 guidelines that CAST offers us in multiple means of expression. One is physical action. Are we having them actually physically interact with the materials and tools? Some of our students do very well when we ask them to speak on a topic, or when we ask them to create a PowerPoint. We get far more information than if we were to give a multiple choice assessment. And the second thing is expression and communication. Do we compose and share ideas using different tools? Are we allowing students to use the tools that work for them? So if a student has a physical impairment and can't make a Prezi if we ask them to do that, or they can't make a PowerPoint, can we record information? There's a really neat speaking tool called Voki Create that allows a character to tell the story that you want it to tell. That is a great way of offering universal design for all students. And then the third component is, are we giving them plans to make the most of their learning? Are we supporting their executive functioning? I think executive functioning is probably one of the most often ignored components at the secondary level, and it's not because people do it intentionally. I think we all assume that students have been through school, so they should know how to organize. They should know how to process based on what they organized, but that is not always the case. Some methods to do that, which come from that resource I provided you in the first video of this series, are we invite personal response, evaluation, and self-reflection. When we allow students to say how it affected them and their opinions of things, we will get so much information. When we put them into one question, they can't always answer for us. So it's very similar to how an IEP and a transition IEP is. We hear a lot from our agency providers that the one thing that we need to do in the education setting is to increase our students' ability and their knowledge of their disability and their accommodations. Our students are very aware of their accommodations and they know their disabilities, but the problem lies in the self-determination model that we use. We don't often allow them to talk about what they like because we're in such a protocol in those meetings. But if we allow them to just give personal response and self-reflection, I think we learn so much more. We have to display the goal or concepts in multiple ways. We have to create cooperative learning groups with clear goals, responsibilities, and we have to use peer mentoring systems. Not everybody is going to express it the same. So if we use peer mentoring systems and bring people together, we're going to get a way stronger response. We have to offer devices, aids, and charts to assist individuals in learning to collect, chart, and display the data from their own behavior. So we have to have self-evaluation. Like I said before, the multiple means of expression is so dependent upon the level of self-determination of our students, and they need to ask for methods, they need to ask for multiple ways. So we just have to remember that self-determination plays a large part in the multiple means of expression. And do we provide alternatives for physically interacting in the class? Do we use a Kahoot? Do we use a Pear Deck where students have a device and they can actually interact and kind of have that fun? Do we make learning fun? Do we have spell checkers, grammar checkers, all of those amazing technology resources that many of us did not have when we were younger, that I would have absolutely loved to have? That makes our creation of a universally designed classroom much easier now than it did in the past. Are we using story webs, outlining tools to help them move through? It's like that essay document that I showed you for my student. Are we providing that to them? So while it was a processing component, it's also an expression component. Do we provide guides and checklists for scaffolding so that they can self-monitor? Do we provide graphic organizers and templates for data collection? Are we allowing them to, if they are a compartmentalized thinker, are we allowing them to express it in a compartmentalized way? So there's a lot of ways that we can offer differentiated expression opportunities. One of the key reasons I always like students to use Flipgrid to do their introduction in every class that I teach is because it allows you to learn a method of differentiated expression and differentiated reception, because we basically can use it in multiple ways. And so I'm not going to go to the link because you guys have had that opportunity with Flipgrid, but you can see how you could have students record a verbal answer, because a lot of times people are like, oh, it's so hard because I don't know where we'd record their verbal essay. Well, they can record it on Flipgrid and then you can grade it at a later time. I mentioned to you Voki Create. Voki Create is very neat, especially for students with anxiety or students that are struggling maybe or have struggling with just speaking in general. A lot of people struggle with speaking in front of people. But if you have a presentation and you know that that student is unable to express themselves in front of a group of people, you can use Voki Create. So this example here, you would be the dog, and then that dog is going to speak whatever you're trying to say. And so you create it, you can create characters, you can create anything. And so it's a really great way to allow students a comfortable environment to get that expression out, but then they still get to speak in front of their peers. Skeleton framework, I offered that example to you for essays. That is something that, again, even though it was in that movement piece, in the engagement piece, because it kept him engaged, the example I gave you is really an expression component where he was able to express himself where he couldn't do that before I offered it. Lucid Chart is another one where they can do concept mapping. They can create that on the flow charts. So all of these methods that we use help us to provide multiple means of expression. We can also vary our assignment opportunities given to students. And I know a lot of people don't like to do this, but it is a universal design component where students have the opportunity to express themselves in their strengths. If you think of the Clifton Strengths Finder, that's what the whole premise of that is how are your strengths, and are you able to come to the greatest level of success because of your strengths? We could allow group and peer tutor completion on assignments. We can offer a progressive test to chunk information. That test might be in 2 to 3 parts and we give them one at a time. This helps them, especially if they maybe are verified with some anxiety and they may be stressed, because sometimes when you have a break and you just get to get up and walk and kind of close out of it, it's a very different outcome than if they have to sit down like everybody else, sit there for their hour and not have that break. So there's a lot of different methods that, remember, not only would benefit students with disabilities, it would benefit individuals in the classroom on the universal level. And that really is what universal design is all about, is meeting the needs of all learners at the time they need it. It doesn't mean it's a disability support, it's just meeting the needs of all learners at the time that they need it. So that was our video on multiple means of expression.